Well, it's not a difficult question, is it? Are Hamas a terror group? You think he could have somehow found a way to say yes, Laura?
Well, it's a difficult question for a lot of the mainstream media, including our national broadcaster.
Oh, yes.
I think it would be a difficult question for a lot of the people that are on the pro-Palestinian marches every Saturday. And, of course, the reason it's a difficult question for a lot of people is that political leaders, people in authority and the national broadcaster aren't being clear enough about calling Hamas a terrorist organisation, which, of course, is in law. End of story and fact. You know, I was on an alternative station the other day and I was sharing a sofa with somebody who said, but the Hamas government isn't a terrorist group because the BBC doesn't call them that. You know, it's kind of a head-exploding moment where you want to say, well, this is the problem. This is the problem. We have to call Hamas terrorists because that is exactly what they are. And they don't just terrorise the Israelis, which they've done for years. They terrorise their own people.
Of course they do.
Because they use them as human shields. They fire rockets from civilian areas. They don't let them leave when they're told to evacuate because Israel is going to mount a military defence. They are the very lowest of the low of terrorists, and it is disgraceful that somebody can't answer the question clearly. I can almost forgive the sort of mindless herbivores that are chanting its slogans that they think are innocent because they think they're marching for peace, but Jeremy Corbyn knows better.
Yeah, I know.
And he's just shown himself to be no friend to the Jews and no friend to Israel in that little
Well, that's just the point, isn't it? I mean, since October the 7th, the mask has slipped off for so many people, but in Jeremy Corbyn's case, that the mask was never on in the first place. It's been clear where his loyalties and his beliefs and his support lies. And by someone in a position of authority not to come out and outrightly condemn Hamas, let's remember, Hamas has Nazi roots going back to the Muslim Brotherhood. We must remind people of that. It's deeply anti-Semitic. And for this man not to condemn it emboldens other people, and it legitimises those who may think that there's actually some justification behind what they're doing.
But isn't that what's now going to happen as well with the firing of Suella Braverman, in the sense that, you know, she was correct in what she said. She predicted what was going to happen. I didn't think that she should have been fired. I said it last week. I said it this morning. I said it today. You know, the idea that she's now been fired is a victory, for me anyway, for the Palestinian protesters, is it not?
I think it's a terrible mistake to have fired her. And, you know, I feel like I'm reeling a little bit from today's news.
Yeah, totally.
I'm sure we all are. I mean, I know people, you know, liberal Jews, people who wouldn't normally say they'd like Suella Braverman, who read her piece in the Times and they said, I agree with every word. I agreed with every word.
There was nothing extreme in that piece.
No, I mean, she does express her views forcibly, but I think there was nothing she said that wasn't correct. She was proved right. I mean, after all, the police they don't police protests even-handedly. And when people said it wasn't her place as Home Secretary to say that, I think they were exactly wrong, because she wasn't getting involved in operational matters. What she was doing as a minister was exactly what she should do, which is saying that the police should be even-handed in how they police protests, which they haven't been, and that was demonstrated in spades this Saturday. You know, the narrative, the splash was decided on earlier in the day. Classic example, Channel 4 tweeted that the protest passed off peacefully, and they had to delete it because, of course, it wasn't true. But they had their splash ready before the fireworks, before Michael Gove
They might find themselves on Plank of the Week for that one.
And let's just remember, you know, Suella Braverman makes the Tory party MPs feel uncomfortable. But the Tory party MPs, I mean, Matt Goodwin has shown research into this. Tory MPs are to the left, not only of Tory voters, but they're actually to the left of the British public on key issues like immigration. Suella Braverman far closer to what the average British person, to what the average viewer of TalkTV believes.
Absolutely.
And we know from the polling that 75% of Tory voters absolutely supported Suella Braverman. And yet here we have Sunak trying to allegedly shore up the blue wall and sacrifice the red wall in an attempt to appear more centrist and relevant. The fact is, he's betraying all of those 2019 voters who voted for this government, only 38% of whom have a good opinion of David Cameron versus 75%
but this is it.
who like Suella Braverman.
I mean, Peter Hitchens and I have talked about Cameron over many years, that he was the beginning of the sort of Blairisation of the Labour Party, of the Conservative Party, that he was the beginning of all of that, you know, let's care about the planet, let's go and hug a hoodie, you know, let's be soft on crime, let's actually be more community-minded, all of the stuff that they've all now got.
David Cameron is the Grim Reaper of British conservatism. He killed it in 2010, and with Suella out the door now, it's as if he's come back to kill off any hope of a Conservative revival.
Yes.
You know, Norman Tebbit called him the Pol Potts of the Tory party, trying to purge every memory of Thatcher. the year zero of conservatism, resetting it, essentially killed off any hopes that we have ever had in this country of seeing a revival of Toryism. Since Cameron, the Tory party has been like a zombie, staggering around like one of those insects with a parasite in its brain, and that parasite is the ideology of New Labour.
Yeah.
Can I say he didn't just kill off the Tory party, he killed off politics. Now, I can give you a whole list of things I think's wrong with David Cameron, but of course, he's the architect of the nudge unit. It is when David
Did he start
Cameron
that as well?
I'm afraid so.
Oh,
it's when
God.
he was Prime Minister that he set up the Behavioural Insights team. And you see, Claire Fox talked before about how this is technocracy. I mean, it really is. It feels like we're in a post-democratic, technocratic stage of our civilizational decline here. But I think it really dates back to then, because that was when they decided that instead of using Parliament to debate things, instead of persuading the population of what's right and in fact then enacting what the population wants as set out in a manifesto. No, what they would do is try to subliminally influence people towards policy goals. It was, really undemocratic to embed behavioural science in government, and that was under David Cameron.
Well, that is another reason not to want him back, isn't it? If you'd ever wanted any more than that. But, I mean, are they now supposedly going to tell us that they've given up on all of these other views, these right-wing attempts at fixing the economy, trying to cut taxes? They don't have to do that now if they're in the middle, do they? They can say, well, we can't do that. They don't have to stop the boats. I mean, we've got a story tonight about £40 million being spent by the French, our money, which we gave them, on things like vacuum cleaners, helicopters, and, bizarrely for the French, of course, riding boots. You've got to wear riding boots if you're in the French border force, haven't you?
They're also spending money...
horses.
They're also spending the money protecting the Italian-French border, rather than our own border,
Well, funnily enough, forget the Schengen agreement. They've decided they can actually be better off with the border between Italy and France, which is a very nice part of the world, by the way. It's the one part where you can go to lunch in one country and have dinner in the other country, and you've only had to walk a very short distance. But, yeah,
I mean... It's a huge sum of money, and, of course, we're going to be committing a lot more money to this agreement. We've only just started. There's about £40 million so far and 500 and something million euros still to come. I mean, how many more car vacuum cleaners are they going to be buying? And microwaves.
Yes.
Microwaves are included. I don't know how that stops the small boats.
Well, it helps to keep the guys who are not stopping them fed. I think that's probably what we do. And what we also know, thanks to an Express investigation, is that they spend an awful lot of time in nightclubs and bars on the sort of Normandy coast, spending UK taxpayers' money, having a great time.
It's a complete joke. We should do, we should do what the Belgians do. The Belgians intercept boats in the water
all the time.
The French have this very weird interpretation of maritime law where they don't go into the water.
No,
it's about time they did that.
It ruins the riding boots, Rafe. We have some sympathy. It's not good for the leather.
But if they don't do it, we should do it, We came over for Dunkirk. No problem at all to save 100,000 Frenchmen. They owe us.
Yes.
If they're not prepared to guard their own waters, we'll do it for them.
We do Dunkirk.
We can even bring the boats, get some Dunkirk spirit going the other way.
Dunkirk in reverse. Absolutely right. It's got to be done. Rafe, thank you very much indeed. Laura, we'll be back with more because you're watching The Independent Republic of Mike Graham.